Okay, so we're going to do homework number 8, which is mortgages. Study plan, section 10.5, buying a house with a mortgage. So let's go ahead and get some definitions out of the way. So, slow on the uptake here. One of those days. A long-term loan in which the property is pledged as security for payment of the difference between the down payment and the sale price is known as a homeowner's mortgage. I'm not sure the derivation of the word, might be Old English or Germanic. So there's a mortgage price, which is the amount of the loan. There's also a selling price, which is what the house sold for. The difference would be a down payment if there were any. Sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't. Okay, the interest that's prepaid by a buyer, which can be used to reduce the stated interest rate that the lender charges. These are called points. Each point is equivalent to 1% of the mortgage, which is essentially the principal. We don't call it principal, we call it mortgage. So if your mortgage is $100,000 and you have 2.5 points, then you would multiply 0.025, 2.5% times 1,000, you pay $2,500, and what that does is it lowers your annual percentage rate, R. You buy interest ahead of time. And what you want to do usually is figure out what the difference is and how long it'll take you to make up the difference. Usually it's a matter of 3 to 5 years, and you'll be all square. You'll be ahead of the game. You'll get the reduced rate for the life of the loan. Most mortgages used to be 30 years. Some were 25. Now they're designer mortgages. You can find companies that'll give you a mortgage for 23 years or 18 years. It all depends on the company you deal with. Hello. Okay. Question 5. The buyer's gross monthly income minus any fixed monthly payments with more than 10 months remaining. Okay, so this is known as the buyer's adjusted monthly income. What you do is you figure out how many bills you have, whatever, like a piano, a car. If you got 10 or more months remaining on the loan, then you subtract the monthly payment from your gross monthly income, and any bills like that are deducted, and the final total would be your adjusted monthly income. And typically, the bank or lending institution usually insists that your monthly payment is no more than 28% of your adjusted monthly income. There could be some little wiggle room, but that's pretty much the going standard. 28% of whatever the adjusted monthly income is. We'll have a couple of problems that'll show us that. Number 7. Okay, so the only thing that I could review real quick is points. If you go back, just a quick review for Maria here. It's interest that's prepaid by the buyer to reduce the annual percentage rate. What you do is you buy points. A point is equivalent to 1% of the mortgage. Mortgage is the name that we use instead of principal. And the mortgage price is what you borrow. The selling price is what the house is listed for. The difference, if there is any, is a down payment. So the mortgage is what you borrow from the bank. It's the principal. If you want to lower your annual percentage rate, they'll let you buy points. let's say the annual rate is 5%, and your house is $100,000. Seems kind of low. At any rate, if you want to lower the 5%, let's say to 4.5%, they'll give it to you for a point, which means you would pay 1% of the 100,000 at closing. You'd pay $1,000 at the closing, and what that would do would lower your APR from 5 to 4.5. And what you usually do is you figure out what's the breakout. How much would I set? How long will it take me to save $1,000? Usually, it's a matter of anywhere between 3 to 5 years. In my history, my experience, it's 3.5 years typically. But you get that lower rate for the life of the loan, which mortgages used to be 30 years. Now, like I was saying earlier, you could design them for any amount of years you want. There's all kind of different loans, mortgage systems. We're just going to talk about fixed rate for X amount of years, 30, 25, 20. The less time that you borrow, the lower the rate typically, because you're using the money for a shorter period of time. So they give you a little bit of a break. Now, the points are interest. Don't be confused, they're interest. They don't lower the principal. They don't lower the mortgage. What they do is they lower the interest rate, the APR. So they're considered as prepaid interest. The bank gives you a break. They get some money up front, cash on hand, so that they can help you out and lower the rate. So those are called points. All right, so determine the monthly principal and interest. P&I, principal and interest. There's 4 facets to a typical monthly mortgage payment. The 2 of them are P&I. The other 2 are T&I, taxes and insurance. But those aren't part of the mortgage. Those are a service that the bank gives to the customer so that you don't have to deal with the taxing authority or the insurance company. I mean, you can set up whatever insurance company you want as long as it meets the bank's requirements, but typically you don't pay on a monthly basis to the insurance company. Usually it's annual. Same with taxes. Taxes are typically taken out 2, 3, or 4 times a year, depending on the taxing authority. I've seen 3 times a year, 4 times every quarter. It all depends on the county or the city or whatever it is who's getting the land taxes for your property. So what happens is, at closing, if you're buying a pre-owned house, the taxes are already been paid because taxes are never always come the year after. So the taxes that are owed for the year you're living there were already paid by the people that sold you the house. So there's always an adjustment at closing. However many months are left, you get that as in your escrow account. Insurance, you make that with your insurance company, and what the bank does is they prorate the amount of insurance for the year, and they take it out on a monthly basis, but they put it in an escrow account. They do give you interest on it, and then when the insurance is due, they pay it out of your account, and you just start over on the next year as you go. So typically, you're always a year behind on that too. So the P&I never change on a fixed rate. The monthly principal and interest are set for the life of the loan. We're not going to get into those revolving mortgages where I don't even know what they're called anymore, but those are risky. So we'll just stick with the fixed ones. You'll need an expert to tell you about the other ones. So, but the taxes and insurance might vary. Taxes may go up or down, insurance may go up or down. So they'll adjust your monthly payment for the escrow account to pay those off. I've seen mine change, $30, $40 a month because I needed more money for insurance or whatever. Or sometimes taxes, I got a tax break because if you get a homestead provision and you're a veteran, they'll lower the taxes after a year or 2 years, and then you get a break so that your monthly payments are lowered. But that doesn't affect P&I. P&I, principal and interest, are constant as a sum total. They're internally changing, just like on any loan. Interest is always high, and then it goes down. You'll see that as when we look at the schedules. But the total each month is set. So when they say determine the monthly P&I for a 15-year mortgage when the amount financed is $85,000 and the annual percentage rate is 5%. So we're going to use the table on the back of the handout. The upper table we used last time was for long-term loans, and we've used those to calculate the finance charge or the interest. And remember, we added that interest to the principal and divided by the number of payments to get the monthly payment M. Mortgages is different. The table below, what you do is you do the same thing. You cross the number of years with the rate. So the columns are the years, and the rate are the rows on the side. And you cross them, and you end up with a dollar figure up to 5 decimal places. Do not round them. And then you multiply by the number of thousands for the mortgage. Now, this doesn't give you just the interest. It gives you both principal and the interest. Okay? So it's automatically set. Now, you can also use the formula. You remember the formula? This one here. The M formula. This one here. See it? And the only reason you'd have to use this is if R was not on the table. You see, we only go by 0.5%. In real life, the tables are almost like a book, because they go to the hundredths of a percent, sometimes more. And so you'd have to need a bigger book. But if we end up with a situation where R is not in our table, or T is not in our table, then we have to use this formula. But I'll do it once, but you'll see that it's usually spot on, just like it was for the installment loans. All right, so for this one, they do give you the table here. This table matches. See, this table here matches the printout. But if they don't give it to you on a test, you have it here on the printout, and they're exactly the same if you look at them. This one starts at 3% on the handout. Here it starts at 4%. So what I would do is I would cross 15 years with 5%. So here's a 15-year column, 5%, 7.90794. So I take my calculator, 7.90794. What's going on here? Something's wrong with my calculator. I got to reset it maybe. All right. Yeah, there you go. It was locked up. 7.90794. Oops, too many nines. And I multiply by the number of thousands. So you could multiply, not divide. You could say 85,000 divided by 1,000, or just write 85, because that's how many thousands there are. And so the monthly P&I, there it is, $672.17. That's it. That's all there is to it. $672.17. They like our answer. Now, just for the sake of doing it, I'll use the formula. So the formula for M, in the numerator, it's principal, so 85,000 times R, which is 0.05, divided by N. Now, this is monthly payment, so N is 12. Divided by parentheses 1 minus parentheses 1 plus R, 0.05, divided by N, 12, parentheses, caret, negative NT. So negative N is negative 12, and T is 15. That's 180 months. See, I get 672.17. They're almost exact. And they're exact to the third decimal place. In the fourth decimal place, the table gave us a 9 and the formula gave us a 6. or 5/8, so it becomes a 6. So they're really close, but they both round to the same penny. Now, if for any reason there's a discrepancy for the total finance charge, the last month may be slightly different. That goes without saying. All right, so that's how we do it both ways. We will always use the table. There's no sense in using the formula. Determine the monthly principal and interest payment for a 20-year mortgage when the amount financed is $275,000 and the annual percentage rate is 5.5. All I got to do is find that B number in the table. So this time we go to 20-year column and we go to 5.5%. And okay, that's what I got. 6.87887, and I multiply by 275 because that's how many thousands there are. And rounding to the nearest penny, it's $1891.69. All right. That's easy enough, right? Yeah. Straightforward enough, I should say. Okay, now they're going to add some other stuff that we have to talk about. So they got three questions here. So the house principal is 205. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That's not. I misspoke because I didn't read it. I saw the number. See, the selling price is $205,000. That's not the mortgage because to obtain the mortgage, she's required to put a 20% down payment. So you have to multiply 0.2 times 205,000. So her down payment is 41,000. So she's going to borrow. So if I just go minus 205,000, I'll get a negative number, but I know she's going to borrow 164,000. See, that's the next question. You see, I did it backwards. I did minus 205 instead of writing 205 minus 41. I did it backwards, which is, as long as I know what I'm doing, I'm okay, right? So the mortgage is 164,000, and then they're going to want to know the monthly payment. All right, so now I got to find 25-year. Now we go to the 25-year column, and it's 4%. 5.27837. Sound right? Yes. And I multiply by which number? 205. No. 164. She didn't borrow. She borrowed 164. Right. Yeah. See, that's what you have to make sure you get that one. Otherwise, you're going to charge her too much. So 865.65. That sounds like a nice number. Now, if there was any points, they didn't say anything about points here, but if I had points, let's say there was 2 points, then I would take 2%, 0.02, I would multiply times the mortgage, which is 164,000. Because you can't charge her points on the down payment. That's illogical. So at closing, she would pay $3,280 to get that 4%. Let's say she paid the 2 points to drop it from 4.6 to 4 even. So she got a 0.6% lowering of the rate because she paid the points. I'm just making that up. I just wanted to use it as an example. And then that's interest. When they ask us later for the total cost that she pays for the house, we have to include P&I. So that includes the monthly payments, total of all the monthly payments, plus the down payment, plus the points. See, down payment is considered principal in the sense that you paid it up front to the bank. There was just no interest on it, but it's still part of the total, cost. Okay, next one. That was 11. I pretty much do all of them that are in the section because there's not a lot of them. So you'll see these all again, but different numbers. So Felix is purchasing a house for $2.2 million. To obtain the mortgage, he has to put 16% down. and he's gonna do 25 years with an interest rate of 7.5%. Okay, so this is very similar to the last one. So I got 2.50, that's 2,200,000 times 0.16, because they want the down payment. So 352,000 down payment. I'd say that's as much as a house for most people. Oh well. Amount of the mortgage, so now I just subtract 2,200,000. No, I'm doing it backwards again. So 1,884,000. And then they want to know the monthly principal and interest. So let's do it this way. Let's take the 148. We'll do that first so we don't forget. We put the mortgage in, and then we multiply by. Now we got to find the 25-year and 7.5%. 7,83991. Oops, I wrote 38 instead of 83. I'm glad I caught it. Oh, and I wrote 7. Yeah, that's right. Oh, see what I did? I forgot to divide by 1,000, so I can do that now. I put 100. I put the whole amount in there, so it's 14,000. It's okay if you can do it afterwards. And 15 cents. So he's going. Oops, they said it's incorrect. I did something wrong. They don't like it. Let's see what I did wrong.
I don't see if you put too many zeros. I think you put too many zeros.
Oh, yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Well, I can just do it again. 1848. Yeah, I have. No, I did. Let's do it this way. 148, and then times 7.83991. See what we get. Not get the same number. The first two numbers are correct. Huh. Let's see, let's double check that amount. Let's see, that was 25 years, 7.5%. 7.83991. I copied everything correctly. I'm missing something very basic. Well, let's see what if they have anything different. No, they have the same number, 7.38991. Oh, I wrote 83 instead of 38. I did write it backwards. You see that?
No, but here on the thing it's backwards then.
Yeah, that's what's wrong. Okay, so look, here's what's going on. If you look at.
Because you showed me that one again, because I saw it. It said 38, right?
Yeah, so this one that's printed on here is backwards. So if you want to change it right now.
Okay.
That's what's wrong. But the printout's wrong.
Yeah.
And we would know. I wouldn't only know that if we tried this problem. And you know, I put 38 in but I thought I was being dyslexic. So it should be 13,65655.
And it would make sense if it would be a number order. It would be 38
There we go.
for the 7.
There we go. Yeah, numerical order, you're right. Yeah. Good. Finally caught it. Okay, so that was a strange mistake. Never would have known it unless they picked that particular number for the year. 15. The Fritzes are buying a house, sells for $198,000. The bank is requiring a minimum down payment of 20% to obtain a 40-year mortgage. So you see, okay, we don't have to worry about the monthly payment because 40 years is not on the table. We'd have to use the formula. But let's see what they want to know. They want to know the required down payment. So that's pretty easy. You take 198,000 times 20%. 39,600. But then they want to know the amount of the mortgage. So I just subtract 198,000. I'm doing it backwards again. So it's 158,400. And then they want to know the cost of 4 points. So they're not asking us for the P&I. They're only, so we take the 158,400 times 0.04, excuse me. Each point's a percent, so 4 points is 4%. So their points is going to cost, it's going to cost them $6,336 to buy down. Wow, 9.5%. This must have been back when Jimmy Carter was president. Mortgage rates were up in the teens. Did you know that? In the 80s? The mortgage rates were in the teens. 12, 13, 14%. I don't know how anybody bought a house. Right now they're around 5.
Are they that low?
My first house, I was 8%. And within 4 years, I was able to refinance from 8 down to 5. Almost put my monthly payment in half.
That's incredible.
And then my second house was, which one was my second house? Was 3 and 5/8%, 3.625.
Oh wow. That's really good.
Yeah. And then my third house was even better. It was 3.125. But I paid points to get it down that
To
low.
bring it down that low.
3%.
It's not bad.
Not bad. Okay. So this one says the Nichols are buying a house selling for $245,000. They pay a down payment of $45,000 for the sale of their current house. To obtain a 15-year mortgage at 4.5% interest rate, the Nichols must pay 1.5 points at the time of closing. What's the amount of the mortgage? Were you able to discern what that was as I was reading? There's the selling price and there's the down payment. So with those two numbers, you should be able to figure out the mortgage. It's not that. It's a nice, easy subtraction.
Right, so you're gonna have 200,000.
200,000. That's right. That's the actual mortgage, 200,000. And then the points is easy too. See, 1% is 1% is 2,000. You just drop, and then another half would be another 1,000, so it'd be 3,000. Right?
But it would be from the 200, not the 245.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. Here's the 200,000. If you take 1%, look, I just dropped the 2 zeros. You see this? Look.
Right.
That's 2,000. So another 0.5% would be another 1,000. So it's 3,000.
Okay.
You can do the multiplication on the side. You could, if you're not sure. I was just trained to do this kind of arithmetic. See, there's the calculation.
Right.
It's just that I'm always looking for shortcuts, I guess. Okay, that was a nice, easy one. Okay, here's one where we're going to have adjusted monthly income. So the Adiva's gross monthly income is $3,800. They have 18 remaining payments of $310 on a new car. So we have to subtract that. Determine 28% of their adjusted monthly income. Okay, so we could do this in 2 steps. Look, we just do 0.28 times the quantity, 3,800 minus 310. What's in parentheses is their adjusted monthly income.
Right.
Because it's the gross minus the car payment.
Right.
I take 28% of that, so it says round to the nearest penny, so $977.20. So that's called becoming pre-qualified.
Okay.
Now they know when they go look at a house, they can ask the agent, okay, that house is selling for that. What's going to be my monthly payment if I can get the bank at 4%?
Okay.
And then you know if you're pre-qualified for that house.
Okay.
Of course, we still have to figure out taxes but that's what you get pre-qualified by going ahead of time to the bank and divulging all your information, and then they tell you, okay, so here's your range of houses that you can look for at these different percentages, and you just do house hunting then. Because the problem is, if you go looking for houses, you might fall in love with a house that you can't afford no matter what, and then you feel terrible. I don't want to go look at any more houses. So you determine the DIVA's total monthly mortgage payment, including principal, interest, taxes, and homeowners insurance. So that's called PITI, P-I-T-I. Principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. P-I-T-I is called PITI. All right, so how do we do that? Monthly mortgage payment. So first of all, we need the P&I. So we take 30 year at 6.5%.
6.5 to 6.32068.
Hopefully this is not.
That one looks right.
Yeah, and that's times.
Where is it? No, 62.
See, they said that 62,000 is the mortgage price. That means that's what they're borrowing. So the monthly is $391.88. So I take $391.88, and then I add.
You have the insurance.
Taxes and insurance are $450. So I add $450 to that. And so that's $841.88. Okay. Now they're going to ask us, do they qualify? Yes, because their PITI is less than their adjusted monthly, 28% of their monthly. See, they can't go above this amount. So for this house, they're fine. They fall into that adjusted maximum. So yes, they qualify. Okay.
Like I had seen a question like this. I guess it was at the beginning when they do that pre-test that we have to take. So if they put other nonsense in there, like grocery bills and stuff like that, we don't have to add that.
No, that's where the other 72% comes in.
Okay.
It's only loans that are outstanding for 10 or more months remaining. Anything 9 months or less, you don't count, because they're going to be finished within the first year, and the bank figures that won't impact you greatly.
Okay.
But if you have outstanding loans for whatever you bought,
So anything greater than 9 months.
anything greater than 9 months, then you have to subtract that from your gross monthly income.
Okay.
Okay.
So like your telephone bill.
Those are all.
Stuff like that. That's not.
No, those are utilities.
Okay.
That's why they cap it at 28%. They figure you can live on 72% for all the rest of the things you do, including your meals out, vacations. But that's the point. You got to live a life. Just because you got a new house doesn't mean you're going to change everything else. You got to be able to buy furniture.
You have to be able to.
So you buy the furniture after you buy the house.
Right.
Otherwise,
If you put in the cart in front of the horse.
There you go. All right, number 20. Bells obtain a 20-year, $110,000 conventional mortgage at 10% rate on a house selling for $140,000. So you see that there's a down payment is inherent in what they just told us. The house sold for $140,000, they got a $110 conventional mortgage. They don't specify it directly, but indirectly there's a $30,000 down payment. Because if the house sold for $140,000 and you're borrowing $110,000, that $30,000 is the down payment. It has to be part of the deal. So we just assume that that's the down payment.
Okay.
Okay, their monthly mortgage payment, including principal and interest, is $1,062.60. They also pay 2 points at closing. Determine the total amount the Bells will pay for their house. Okay, so we start with the P&I. The P&I is 1,062.60. And they do that for 20 years. So that's 240 months. So that's 20 times 12. Okay. They also pay $30,000 down. So there's 30,000 plus 30,000. And they also pay points. So that's plus 2% of the 110,000. Okay? So I need to add up all the principal and interest. So the monthly P&I is right there. There's 240 payments of P&I. The 30,000 is part of the cost. It's considered principal because there's no interest on it. And then the points are considered interest. So you got all those calculations involve all of the various P&I that you paid for the house. So the total is $287,224. That's for a house costing $140,000. Typically, you're going to pay between 2 and 2.5 times, well, between 2 and 3 times what the house sold for. Over a 25, 30 year loan. It'd probably be even more if it was a 30-year loan. Okay. Did I miss anything for you? All right. So the next question is, how much of the cost will be interest? Well, that's easy. All I got to do is subtract 140,000 because that's what the house sold for. Everything else, that's the total principal. I paid that in terms of the 30,000 lump, and the other 110,000 came out of all those 240 monthly payments. So everything else has to be interest. So the interest is $147,224. It's easy that way when you think in those terms. The total principal is the selling price, whatever it was. Okay? And then the last question is, how much of the first payment on the mortgage is applied to the principal? Well, we can figure out the interest because we don't have a formula for principal. So we take the simple interest. I equals PRT. So the principal is 110,000. That's the starting principal. Times R, which is 0.10, 10%, 10. And it's for 1 month, so divided by 12, 1/12 of a year, right?
Right.
So the first month, the interest is $916.67. So I take the monthly payment of 1062.60 and I subtract $916.67, and the balance is the principal, $145.93. See, most of my first monthly payment is interest. That's going to be that way for
a while.
For a while, yeah. In fact, I'm going to show you that. Let's make sure we got the right answer for them. Yes. All right, so I'm going to go to the amortization schedule. Let's see. Let me write down some numbers here. It's 110,000. It's 10%. It's 20 years. And okay, so I'm going to go to this mortgage calculator. I'll put in the amount 110,000. Oh, I can do this. I'll do it 140,000. The down payments. $30,000. Loan term is 20 years. The interest rate is 10%. The other stuff, I don't care about that. I just do calculate. And then I go down here. It's the amortization schedule. And what I do is I do a monthly schedule. So there it is. 917, 145. Now they're rounding off to the nearest dollar.
Right.
But you can see the second month, 915 interest, 146 principal. This tells you the balance. So you can see from 110,000, you subtract 145. That's your principal at the second month. You take the simple interest for that, and there it is. You subtract the principal that's remaining from the second monthly payment. That's your new principal as you go. So the principal's going down. This total principal balance is going down, but monthly principal is going up, and the interest is going down. And the bank will give you this. It'll be like 7-8 pages long, and then at the end of 20 years, just to show you, at the 20th year, you can see that all of a sudden now the interest is real low, and principal for each month has taken over. Okay, so that's called an amortization schedule on a monthly basis. Now they didn't go to the nearest penny; they rounded to the nearest dollar, but that's okay. You get the idea. Let's see what their monthly payment was. I didn't look. 1061.52. So we're off by they're off from ours by, ours was 1060. Do you remember? It was 1062.60.
So wasn't that far off?
So yeah, about a dollar, less than a dollar, $1.08. For whatever reason, there's amortization schedule is slightly different. I'm not sure why that works that way, but at the end, it's all, whatever the finance charge is, it's all added up in the last payment, one way or the other. So, but the bank will give you that. You'll always get that at the closing, so you can look at. Now there is a way to save a lot of interest. You just start applying principal. And the best way to do it is if you get paid on a bi-weekly basis, like I do here. I get 26 paychecks per year. So when I don't have a mortgage now, but when I did, I was getting paid on that schedule. I would take half of my monthly mortgage payment and deposit it in the bank. So twice a year, I would end up ahead because I'd have like 3 payments in 1 month. And so that payment would go toward interest twice a year because they only expected 24 payments. I was giving them 26. That will cut 8 years, 7.5 years off of my 30-year mortgage. It'll bring it down to less than 23 years. It works that fast. So that's one way to do it. Another way is just you've got a big Christmas gift from your aunt. You just go out of the bank and say, here, I'm going to apply this to my as principal to my mortgage, and that'll just knock your interest down for the next month real greatly. So, but I like the 26 payments per year. That's a real nice way to do it.
That definitely helps.
So you might want to remember that if you're on that payment schedule, you know.
Yeah. That's a big suggestion.
Because I didn't miss it. It just came out of my check. So my checks were always the same. I didn't know anything. Because if I didn't, I'd just spend the money anyway. You know?
Yeah. That's the thing. If you have it, you're going to spend it.
That's right. That's right. You got it.
You might as well invest it in something.
Right. Okay, so next one, there's only a couple more here. 21. Couple found a house selling for $112,500. The taxes on the house are $1,200 per year, and the insurance is $360 per year. They're requesting a conventional loan from the local bank. The bank is currently requiring 15% down and 3 points, and the interest rate's 10%. Couple's gross monthly income is $4,950. They have 10 more payments remaining on a car, a boat, furniture. The total month payments for these 3 items is $430. The bank will approve a loan that has a total monthly mortgage payment of principal, interest, property taxes, and homeowners insurance that's less than or equal to 28% of their adjusted monthly income. So what's the required, we gotta do a lot of calculations here. So the first one is the monthly, or the required down payment.
Right.
So that's 15% of 112,500, right? So that'd be 16,875. Okay. Now they want to determine the cost of the 3 points. So I need the price of the mortgage. So that's 112,500 minus the 16,875. And I multiply that times 3%, 0.03. And they want it to the nearest dollar. So it's 28.69. I have to be careful because it says round to the nearest dollar. So the 75% rounds it up to $9, maybe, or $69. Okay, so there's the points. 28% of their adjusted monthly income. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do 28, and I take the gross monthly income, which is $49.50, minus $430. And so their adjusted monthly income is $1,200, or 28% of it is nearest dollar would be $12.66. I can round that 60 cents up to the nearest dollar would be $12.66. Okay, and then they want to know, determine the monthly payments of principal and interest. Okay, so now I need the number from the table for a 10%, and how many years was it? 20.
So it's 9.6502.
Thank you. And I multiply that by 95.625. That was what we figured out was the principal. Remember, we needed the principal to figure out the points. Remember this number?
Yeah.
So by thousands, you just don't drop the. If there's zeros, you drop them, but you put a decimal. What you do is move the decimal point over, so it's 95.625. And so that will be $922.80 per month for the P&I. And then they want to know the monthly payment for everything. So that'll be $922.80 plus no. The property taxes is here's what I got to do. I got to put parentheses 1,200 plus 360 in parentheses because those are yearly,
right.
And then parentheses divided by 12. So I take the total of the taxes and the insurance. I divide it by 12 because I want the monthly payment. And I just add that to the P&I. So what's in parentheses is the T plus I, and I divide by 12. So I get my PITI of $1,052.80. Okay? And now they want to know that they qualify. Yes, because we're less than 1266.
Right.
That's what they're pre-qualified for. So yes, they qualify. And one more question. Determine how much of the first payment of the loan is applied to the principal. So the original principal, once again, is that number, 95625. That's the principal at the start of the first month. So times the percentage, 10% divided by 12. I equals PRT. And so I subtract that from, I'm going to be careful here. I'm going to take the 10, nope, I can't do, it's not the 10252, it's the P and I is 922.80, right?
Yeah.
And I subtract the interest, which is 796.88. So 125.92 is the principal applied on the first month. Okay, was this a 20-year loan?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna use this other calculator here. Let's write down a couple of numbers just to see, because the other calculator goes to the nearest penny. So let's see how close we can get to theirs. So it's 95625, 10%, 20 years. So this one's bank rate. So 95625. Down payment 0%. 20 years. Interest rate 10%. And there it is. See, they got 10/30/69. It's just slightly different than ours. Right? Let's see if I can. 125.92. Their first month was 125.12. Our interest was 796.88. That's what they agreed with me. It's just that their principal and interest was 10/30/69. That's for the year. Let's see if we can see it. Where is it?
Maybe up towards the top.
They don't give the monthly amount. Well, if we add those two, let's add them together. 125.12 plus 796.88. See, we're off by 80 cents for them. I've always noticed this. They're never spot these tables. And maybe they don't care. Maybe they're only accurate to the nearest dollar or two, which is fine if you're just making comparisons or shopping. But when you get down to the brass tacks, when you sign for something, then you're yeah. And if you've ever been to a closing?
I have.
You'll sign your name like 85 times. And one of the things I would recommend is before you go to closing and sign off, hire a lawyer. It may cost you a couple $300, but they'll go through and they'll make sure that there's no anything not illegal, but there's no something that the bank missed. Discrepancies, yeah, because it can hold up everything, and if you're tied up with that, then you can't do anything else. And your money's tied up, you can't. You're like, what are we going to do? Blah, blah, blah. So before you do it, it's worth getting a lawyer to go in, and so he makes sure that your title's okay and that there's no outstanding liens that nobody told the bank or other people lied about. They'll clear the decks on all of the paperwork, legal paperwork. So when you're there to sign, you're good. They don't have to be there, but like you give them a week or two before the closing, you give them all the paperwork. Let them know everything that you're going to be doing, and they'll go through it all. And that way you go in there and you feel a lot better about going through the process, signing all the paperwork. Because it's disconcerting. You're setting your course for a lot of years, and you want to make sure that it's
scary.
Yeah, you want to make sure it's done right. All right, so one more. Kathy wants to buy a condo for $96,000. The taxes are $1,300. This is very similar to the last one, so we get a chance to do it again. What's the down payment? Okay, so rather than read the whole thing, we'll just hunt and peck for what we need. So the down payment is 20% of 96,000, right? So we take 0.2 times 96,000, 19.2. As they say in the lingo. Too many. There we go. 19.2. So determine 28% of her adjusted income. So I like doing this all in one. I take 28. I take her gross monthly income is 4,500, and I subtract. She has a van. That's a pretty cheap van. So her 28% nearest penny. See, this one's nearest penny. So I keep the 20 cents. Remember, the last one was nearest dollar. So make sure you read them. Determine the monthly payments, P&I. So I need the principal. The easy way to do this is just do 0.8 times 96,000. right? So it's 76,800. That's the mortgage, and it's 9.5% for 25 years. Looks like 8.73697. Did you see that?
Yes.
I better make sure I've copied it right. 73697 times 78 or 76.8. If I move the decimal place 3 places to the left, it's 76.8 thousand. And so the month it's 671 even is the P&I. The nearest penny, that's $671. That's nuts. Determine her monthly payment, including homeowners insurance and taxes. So it's 671 plus.
But the property is 13.
Once again, that's per year. So I got to put 1,300 plus 326 in parentheses. Right, divided by 12. You got it. So 806.50 is her monthly payment. 6, which is well within her 28%. She qualifies easily. And the last question is they're going to want to know how much is applied to principal. So I take the original principal 76,800 times P was 0.9095 divided by 12 or times 112, however you want to look at it. So 608 is the interest. So out of the 806.50, I just subtract 806.50, and the principal is 198.50. I did something wrong. Oh, I subtracted from her pity instead of her P&I. It's 671 minus 608.
Oh.
My bad. $63 is the principal. Yeah, see, I was in a rush.
But there's so many numbers.
Yeah, there's so many questions I answered. You got to keep it straight. Like, don't be like me. One more question here. Determine the total amount she pays for the condo with a 25-year conventional loan. Well, there was no points, so all we ought to do is add the 671 monthly payment. Now, we don't count taxes and insurance.
Okay.
Because that's not part of the cost of the house. Just principal and interest. So she had 671, and it was 25 years. That's 300 months. So 25 times 12 is 300. And I add the down payment. The down payment was 19,200. So she paid 220,500. She more than doubled the price of the condo. Over 25 years, though. You pay for the use of the money. Then they're going to want to know how much was total interest. So just subtract the total cost of the condo, 96,000. So the interest was 124,500. That was a nice way to end it. Yeah, we had almost everything in there that we could possibly want to know about mortgages, besides what I had added on in terms of my experience. So, any questions on this? So